Next up, we'll be talking about forced falling asleep, which is exactly like it sounds and is one of the techniques that I tend to make the most use of in my personal practice. Although I typically use it as a way to get down to stage 1 of sleep hypnagogia, consciously or lucidly aware. And I oftentimes like to do it when I'm initially falling asleep, during the night. But he talks about using it in a bit of a different way, and specifically using it in conjunction with your cycling techniques and the indirect method. And so he writes, over the course of 3 to 5 seconds, right, this is using the whole indirect deferred method thing, where after sleeping about 6 hours, wake up with an alarm, go to sleep after that with the intention on cycling through your techniques every time you naturally awake after that. So you have this natural awakening after that point. Over the course of 3 to 5 seconds, the practitioner tries to abruptly, determinedly, and forcibly fall asleep, maintaining the intention of either not actually falling asleep, or at least keeping your conscious awareness intact, or of coming back to himself at the last moment before losing consciousness. So a large part of this whole forced falling asleep thing, for it to actually work, a lot of it's going to be based around setting intentions. And a good way I found to kind of get some nice reps in of setting intentions and building your confidence in your ability to do that, one good way is to simply try and beat your alarm awake. So say if you got to wake up at 6 a.m., set your alarm for like 6:02, and then set the intention to try and wake up on your own and beat your alarm, right? Whether that be like 6 a.m., 5:59 or whatever. That's a good way to get some reps in. And then another good way I like to do it is set the intention of trying to, wake up or become conscious at, say, like some other time during the night. So like 3 a.m. And that's worked out a good amount for me over the years, where, I won't know what time it is. I'm in a dream. I get, randomly lucid. And then, after seeing the dream end and waking up, I check the clock and it's like, oh, 3:10 a.m. I was pretty accurate on time with that. So that's a fun one to mess around with. And then the rest of this section is basically just talking about combining this with your various cycling techniques. So each time before performing techniques or cycles of techniques, the practitioner simply throws himself back into a sleepier state via forced falling asleep in order to increase their effectiveness. You can use it as a backdrop to whatever technique that you're using, kind of just like running in the background, or you can use it also to finish off, phase entrances. We'll say like you're doing phantom wiggling of your hand or something. You can kind of feel it moving, but you're not quite fully into this falling asleep and into the phase state yet. At that point, you can kind of stop worrying about your hand and just focus on trying to forcibly fall asleep while maintaining your conscious awareness, and then enter into the phase that way. And then the last thing he talks about is how this tends to be a more advanced technique, mostly because it can cause a roadblock for novices. So the most important thing is to never try this technique if you don't understand it, or if you're specifically, practicing it. A practitioner may lose out on real experience in search of a silver bullet. He would waste time and energy on things obscure to him, and therefore that which is bound to be ineffective. Okay? Conversely, if a practitioner immediately understands forced falling asleep and is familiar with it, then he may dive right into trying it in his practice. So it can be pretty beneficial. There's one more thing I wanted to read in here somewhere. Oh yeah, so interesting fact. Some practitioners get forced falling asleep so well that they use nothing else besides it. And I think that just kind of highlights how powerful this technique can be when you get the hang of it. And that's it. Until the next video, keep your phase practice legit.